Hi. There's something strange about trust. You think of it like air, always there, invisible, automatic. Until one day, you gasp and realize it's gone. We had this old tablet we used for everything that didn't matter. Grocery lists, recipes, shared calendar events, random Netflix logins we never updated. It sat on the kitchen counter like some forgotten relic. Battery always low, screen slightly cracked on the corner. It wasn't private. It wasn't important. That's what made it dangerous. On a quiet Tuesday night, I was the one making dinner. Not her. She was out late. Work happy hour, some new team bonding thing. One of those phrases she tossed around like they meant something. I didn't question it. I used to be proud of her hustle, her career, her title. I'd tell friends at barbecues, she's running operations for the whole region now. They'd nod, impressed. I'd beam, even when she wasn't there to hear it. That night, I needed the recipe for the chicken dish she liked, the one with lemon and thyme, and the tablet had it saved. When I tapped the screen, it lit up with a single notification that somehow slipped through her lock settings. Ben, that pic from last night, you're killing me. Smiling face with horns. Ben. No last name. No context. Just a name and a message that didn't sound like it was about work. My thumb hovered over the screen. The tablet wasn't even signed into her primary account. It was synced with the shared family drive, but not the one with her Face ID. Still, messages were syncing. Maybe by accident. Maybe she forgot. Or maybe she never thought I'd look. I wish I could tell you I paused. That I respected boundaries. That I told myself it was probably innocent. But the truth is, my gut clenched so fast I nearly dropped the thing. And I opened it. There wasn't just one message. There were dozens. Weeks worth. Maybe more. Group chats under names I didn't recognize. One-on-ones with nicknames I'd never heard her say aloud. And that one thread with Ben, whoever he was, threaded with photos, inside jokes, and a level of comfort I hadn't seen in our marriage in a long time. The first photo was just a selfie. She was in a booth at a restaurant. Same top she wore last Friday when she said she was with the girls. Lipstick fresh. Smile lazy. Wine glass visible just behind her elbow. There was nothing explicit. Nothing outright damning. But the intimacy of it. Her angle, her smile, the way she captioned it. Missed you last week kiss mark. It didn't need to be sexual. It was emotional. It was connection. With someone else. I didn't eat dinner that night. I turned off the oven and just stood there, reading. Scrolling. There was a short video, too. They were in a car together, laughing at some inside joke I couldn't decode. She was leaning on his shoulder. In the background, a song we used to call ours played on the radio. She thought I'd never checked the shared tablet. It's wild how betrayal doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in, like a cold draft under a door. My first thought wasn't rage. It was confusion. This wasn't her. My wife wasn't careless. She was calculated, private, controlled. So why leave the door open? And then it hit me. Because she believed I'd never look. Because she'd long stopped thinking of me as someone who could look. The moment stuck with me. Not just the messages, but the shift in me. I'd always seen myself as the laid-back one. The peacekeeper. I'd rationalized her distance. Her phone always face down. The lingering smiles at texts she didn't explain. The work trips that extended a day too long. I told myself to trust her. That I was just being insecure. That love was about space and faith and support. And then there it was. A thread of messages that told a different story. She walked in 2 hours later, carrying a bag from the Italian place we liked. They gave me extra breadsticks, she said, pecking my cheek like everything was fine. I smiled back. Not out of warmth, but out of instinct. Tablet's charging, I said, nodding toward the kitchen. She barely glanced at it. She had no idea. That night, I lay beside her in bed, pretending to scroll my phone, listening to her breathing shift as she drifted off. And all I could think was, when did she stop being mine? It wasn't the messages that shattered me. It was the ease, the confidence, the belief that I'd never see it. Trust doesn't break with fireworks. It breaks quietly, with a tap on a forgotten screen. A message you weren't meant to read. A smile meant for someone else. And once it breaks, you can't glue it back. Not really. You can try. You can tape it, paint over it, pretend the cracks add character. But late at night, you'll still feel the draft. That was the beginning, not of the end, but of the unraveling. The morning after felt like walking through a museum of a life that used to be mine. Coffee brewed the same way. Her toothbrush lay where it always did, just slightly angled in the holder. Her voice floated down the stairs, singing, humming, something casual and sweet. She kissed me on the neck like usual before leaving for her run, earbuds already in, no idea the man she left behind was no longer the same. Because I knew. I knew. And that knowledge settled in me like wet cement. I didn't confront her that day, or the next. It would have been too easy, too emotional. I'd seen enough to know she was hiding something deep, but I also knew I didn't have the whole picture yet. Just a few pieces. And if I was going to hold this up to her one day, I wanted the entire frame in view. So I started watching. She didn't notice. I was still the same to her, predictable, accommodating. I still did the dishes after dinner. Still folded her laundry, left her favorite creamer in the fridge. She didn't notice I stopped touching her first, that I flinched when she reached for my hand at the grocery store. She didn't feel the shift in me because she had already left, emotionally, anyway. She had no reason to think I'd go digging. But I did. The shared tablet had more than messages. It had synced photo albums, location pings, and email drafts. I learned how to extract caches, how to look at deleted data she hadn't wiped clean. The more I pulled back the curtain, the more I realized how long it had been going on. Ben wasn't new. He was embedded. He was in work meetings, weekend trips, spa visits that suddenly made sense. One set of photos showed them in Asheville, hiking the Blue Ridge. The date stamp? The same weekend she told me she'd gone to visit her sister in Charlotte. I'd sent her flowers that day. She texted a thank you and told me I was the sweetest. Meanwhile, she was smiling at another man, arms around his waist. I can't explain the hollow that opened in me. It wasn't rage. Rage would have felt active, hot. This was cold, numb, like watching a movie where you already know the ending, but you're forced to sit through every second of it anyway. I started taking screenshots, saving things to a cloud folder she didn't know about. Emails, photos, every late-night text, every pet name, every lie she told me while looking me straight in the eye. And still, I said nothing. I went to work. I kissed her goodbye. I watched her cook pasta and dance around the kitchen like she always did. And I watched closely when she tapped out her messages under the table, smirking at a joke I'd never hear. One night, I asked, "You happy lately?" She blinked, surprised by the question. Of course. Why? I shrugged, just wondering if we're good. She smiled. That fake, reassuring smile I'd come to recognize in photos sent to someone else. We're fine. You always overthink things. I nodded, swallowing every word I wanted to scream. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? I asked. Of course, she said. You don't have to worry so much. That was the moment I realized she wasn't lying to protect me. She was lying because she thought I didn't matter anymore. Because she assumed I wouldn't find out. Because she assumed I wouldn't do anything even if I did. I began documenting everything. Quietly. A private folder, encrypted. Notes on her behavior. Patterns. Dates. Times. Every breadcrumb. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe clarity. Maybe a way to prove to myself that this wasn't my fault. Maybe a way to survive what was coming. Then one afternoon, the scales tipped. I'd left work early, something I rarely did. She thought I had a late meeting. The house was quiet when I walked in, but her keys were on the counter. Music playing low upstairs. She wasn't alone. His voice drifted down. Laughing. Confident. Familiar now. I didn't barge in. I didn't yell. I just stood in the entryway, staring at the shoes by the door. His shoes. Brown leather. Polished. Like he'd been here before. That's when I realized. This wasn't some fleeting affair. This was a second life she'd built. In our home. In the house we'd painted together, danced through, planned children for. I left quietly. Sat in the car. Hands on the wheel. Chest heavy. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I had. And somehow, knowing still didn't soften the blow. Her secret wasn't secret anymore. But I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with the truth. I didn't confront her that night. I drove for 2 hours with no destination. Just back roads. Headlights carving through the dark. Engine humming beneath my silence. My phone buzzed twice. Once a text from her. Where are you? You okay? And once from an unknown number. It was him. Ben. Just a single message. He doesn't suspect a thing, right? I remember staring at it until my hands shook. And then I took a screenshot, added it to the folder, and turned off my phone. I wasn't going to blow up. I wasn't going to break down. Not yet. She had built a lie carefully. So I would dismantle it the same way, quietly, patiently, without warning. The next morning, I returned home before sunrise. She was asleep, curled on her side of the bed like nothing had changed, like her world hadn't just silently detonated. And I looked at her, really looked, for the first time in months. Not with love, not even with anger, just clarity. I spent the next week moving pieces. I met with a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a family law strategist who specialized in high-asset divorces and digital forensics. I shared everything. The messages, the photos, the timeline. He didn't flinch. "You've built quite the archive," he said, flipping through my files. "Most people come in here with suspicion. You came in with a war chest." We drew up a plan, quietly froze the joint accounts under a legal provision, locked my personal savings, transferred my name off certain titles that I knew she'd fight for. I even moved a significant portion of my income into a deferred trust, legally shielded. Then I booked a weekend trip, just the two of us. "To reconnect," I said. She smiled, probably thinking her two worlds would never collide, that her little secret would stay buried under passwords and winks and late-night messages. But the second night at the cabin, I handed her the tablet. The same tablet, fully charged. Open. Her message thread with Ben enlarged on the screen. She blinked at it like it was some kind of trick. "What's this?" she asked, voice tight. I didn't speak. I let the silence answer. Then she looked up at me, eyes wide. Not guilty, not sad, just exposed. "You went through my stuff?" That was her defense. Not denial, not regret, just accusation. "I went through our stuff," I said, calm. "The stuff you thought I'd never check." She stood, defensive. "You had no right." "No," I interrupted. "You had no right to lie. In our house, in our marriage." And then I reached into my coat pocket and handed her a sealed envelope. She didn't open it right away, but she knew. She sat down, slowly, eyes scanning the name of the firm on the letterhead. "What is this?" she whispered. "Clarity," I said. "And closure. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "But you did," I said. "You chose it. Every message. Every time you laughed at my love and called it weakness." "I was lonely," she said, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. "So was I," I said. But I didn't fill that emptiness with betrayal. We didn't speak for hours after that. We drove home in silence. 3 weeks later, she was served officially. Infidelity, intentional deceit, strategic separation of marital trust. And the documents were thorough, brutally so, because I'd done the work. She moved in with her sister. I heard through friends that Ben tried to step up. Lasted maybe a month before he ghosted her. Turns out, he liked the chase more than the wreckage. She texted me once. "I miss the way you used to look at me." I didn't respond. Because that man, the one who saw her as his future, who believed her laugh was honest and her eyes were home, that man was gone. In his place stood someone quieter, wiser, scarred, but standing. She thought I'd never checked the shared tablet. She thought she could build a second life in the shadows of our first. But secrets have a funny way of surfacing, especially when they were never buried deep enough to begin with. So no, her secret wasn't secret anymore. It became my truth. And I walked away from it, not broken, but free. Bye-bye.